register. We shall close this portal for registration a week to the date of exam, because we want to avoid and ensure that only bona fide students who registered for the course are the ones who will access the card. The card shall therefore be done online, and this is a way of curbing those who are not students and would wish to come in and do the card. It's only for the bona fide students. So with that in mind, therefore, we can proceed. That last time we were looking at part 1 of the course. We looked at statistics. And today, because we are not available for the video, I want us to look at public finance. This is what we can discuss without even using the projections and the real time for the chalkboard. So today, as we start, we are looking at public finance. Public finance is a bit wide and interesting. It's a bit political, and we wish that all that which we shall discuss here is mainly for the purpose of this course, to understand the course and not for any other political implications. We may discuss key issues, pertinent issues, confidential issues. We wish this to be left for the course alone. So as we start looking at this concept of public finance, we want to look at it because public finance just is financing of state activities. Now, why do we finance for state activities? We finance because the government takes responsibility to perform its duties and responsibilities. So the government must perform its functions. And what are some of the functions of the government? The main function of the government, we can classify them into 4. One is the protective function, where it is the responsibility of the government to provide peace and security in the country. And the government must protect and defend the borders of this country against an external or internal aggression. This is done by the disciplined forces. We have the Kenyan police and we have the Kenya Defense Forces, as it is considered currently. When you hear of bandits, when you hear of other groups coming up like Mungiki, these groups, when they emerge and cause chaos, it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that there is peace and tranquility, and that's why the Ministry of Interior is always up to the task. If we have an external aggression, then it is the duty of the government, the responsibility of the government to engage. And that's why we wanted to ensure that there is peace in Somalia, because instability in Somalia is causing us problems in this country. And that's the reason why you find that we send mission even up to and including Congo. We are soon going to send police to Haiti, although it's still in the progress, because there's a procedure that must be followed and approvals given by Parliament to have that considered. The next function is that of administrative function. The government is responsible for the general administration of the country. How does the government administer the country? We have the devolved units, what we now call the county government. So we have 2 type of administration, the national government and the county government. At each of this level, we have the various ministries and departments. So if you look at the national government, from the president to regional commissioners, down to county commissioners, down to area commissioners, to the chief, to the sub-chief, and to the liguru at home. That is the structure of the national government. And this, therefore, brings down what is supposed to be done by the national government to the people. And similarly, what the people want from the villages, the ligurus, those are the people that bring it up until it gets to the national office. The similar approach is used at the county government, because the head of the county government is the governor, while the head of the national government is the president. So the governor has his own. He has the ministers, the CECs, and he has the chief officers. And from there, we have the administrators, sub-county administrators. We have the ward administrators. And then we have the village administrators. That is the structure of the county government. So looking at the two, they are only meant to provide the administrative function so that the management of the affairs of the country and the government are in unison. The third function is that of the social function, where the government provides social services to its citizens. And social services are deemed to be vital. Look at things like education, things like health. These are the very basics. Why are we saying that it is education for all? Why are we saying that compulsory basic education, which is free? Why should the government invest in that? It does that because it is the duty and responsibility of the government to provide those social services that are deemed to be vital for the welfare of the society. The last function that we can categorize is that function of the development. It is the responsibility of the government to bring development to its people. As one politician normally says, it's the duty of the government to develop this country. How does this happen? It does through the different sectors of the economy, especially those sectors that contribute to the increased rate of economic growth. Look at things to do with agriculture. Look at things to do with industrial development. Look at things to do with transport. Look at things to do with communication networks. It is the duty of the government. So these developments, like in transport, we have those that are for the national government. We have those that are for the county government. The national government does this through the agency that we call KURA. We have the county government that also does this development in terms of transport enhancement, so that we are opening the rural roads, maraming them, and even tamaking some. So the responsibility of the government to bring this development. These four functions. But for the government to perform these functions, there's need that it has funds. There's need that it generates funds. And therefore, public finance can be redefined. Public finance can be looked at because of these major functions that must be performed, because of what it has to do. So public finance can be looked at in terms of how do they generate funds and how do they therefore expend. So we can look at it in terms of the public revenue and public expenditure. So let us briefly look at public revenue. Public revenue means all those income, all those amounts that are received by the government, the income for the government. So the government must source for funds. These funds are the ones that are used to finance and perform the functions that we have looked at. So what are some of these sources? We can classify them into two: internal resources and external resources. Internal resources are those sources that are generated within the country, the mechanisms put in place to raise funds. For example, tax. Taxation is a topic we shall look at it in detail. Everybody's crying about tax, but tax is the main source of revenue for the government within our country. What is tax? This is a compulsory contribution imposed on individuals that's supposed to meet those expenses that are deemed to be incurred for a common cause. As we want to put up, enhance the transport infrastructure, we need funds to build those roads. Those roads are for the common good. Everybody will use them. As we provide mechanisms to finance basic education, social function, we must finance them. Where does the government get finance? To pay the 22,000 shillings for every student at the secondary school level. This is the source. And therefore, we shall discuss how these tax and tax mechanisms that the government puts in place and can use for purposes of performing its functions. The number two source is what we call fees. And when we talk about fees, this is not what you pay to schools or institutions. Fees in itself, the amount received by the government against any direct service rendered. We know that the government renders some direct services to the government. Can I request Mercy that you mute? Marceline, you mute. And if you are going to create problems, I'm going to deal with you. Naona nyinyi mnataka mchezo. And mute at your own risk. I'm taking record. So fees is what the government gets against any direct service. Right now, we are talking about e-citizen, e-platform. Now, anything e-platform, you are paying a convenience fee. That convenience fee is what we are referring to as part of fees. But if you want to use, there is what we call the road license fee. This is part of the income. That when you are importing some commodities, you must have an import license. It's a service that it is given. That you are moving your animals from Bungoma town or Mayanja to wherever, you pay for the fee at the place of origin. This is what we are talking about. The third aspect source is the prices. Now, as fees is against any direct service, prices are against the commercial service. The government can also engage in business with its people. We can do this through perhaps the communications that we have. Things like the postage, things like the telephone charges. Look at the railway, the SGR. If you are moving from Mombasa to Nairobi, you are paying and using the SGR. What you pay, that is a commercial service. What we pay in terms of posting letters, I know these days people are using mobiles, technology have come in, but there's a charge which has been imposed in the form of a tax on your airtime. So if they impose it, that becomes a charge. But when you use the postage, for example, when we used to have the landlines and we were calling using through the booths, whatever that we were generating, that was what constitutes the prices because it's a commercial activity. The government, therefore, can also engage in those services. And once they engage in them, whatever that is sourced, whatever that is generated, forms part of the public revenue. That is income to the government. We have special assessments, amounts that are charged for specific purposes. Those good old days, wanted a hospital, when you wanted a school, when you wanted a police post, when you wanted a chief's office, they could say that the community contributes. How are they contributing? Through some small payments. Those payments are what constitutes that specific purpose. And that's what we talk of special assessments. If you wanted to build a hospital, they will say the community to provide land, and somebody could offer to give an acre or a plot. This is still going on even today. Special assessment is important because this is what has seen development, services coming closer to Mwananchi. Kibabi University boasts as a university because it is one of those special assessments. I remember when I was in primary, we contributed 1 shilling for Kibabi teacher's diploma. When I joined St. Mary's Boys High School, Kibabi, for those who didn't know, I'm a product of Kibabi Boys. We contributed 100 shillings for the establishment of Kibabi Teachers Diploma College. When the government now put up where now Kibabi University is, it was a teachers training college. So it was upgraded now to university. And that's why you find Kibabi University there, as the Kibabi Teachers College was moved to the Red Cross and finally transferred to Siombe, for those who didn't understand. Look at the establishment of Masinde Muliro University. How did it come about? way back in 1972. These are historical facts. 1972, people were collecting, and they were collecting funds for the establishment of a college within the Western region. So the entire of the Western region contributed, and every home was forced to contribute towards this noble cause. So at that time, you know, we have been having Rivanzoya now taking those to the Bukusu side or this other side. The Bukusus were clever, and they said we cannot take all our funds across Rivanzoya. So they took part, and that's how Weko came in. Weko is the one that grew into Weuko Western University College and now Masina Muliro University. Why was it named Masina Muliro? Because Masina Muliro was the person, one of the people, the key people who were behind that idea. So the little that the people of Bungoma did not submit, they used it, and that is what has established Sangalo Institute of Science and Technology, currently the Bungoma National Polytechnic. We can touch those things that are there, tangible enough that we can talk about as a result of the special assessment. Those were the good old days when you could go for an ID. The chief will tell you, oh, contribute for Harambe, for this, Harambe for this. For Harambe, this is what came about at that time during Moi's era. Then the other source, the other source is fines. You know, fines. Kindly please mute. Kindly please mute. Derek, mute. Fines, we know, these are charges imposed on individuals for disobeying the law. It's a form of punishment for wrongdoing. So if you break a traffic rule, then you are charged in a court of law. If you break any law, you are taken to court, and the court finds, goes to the kitty. The kitty of the government, therefore, can now spend, as we shall see, under public finance. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to understand some of these things. We know there are regulations dealing with how we should drink, especially the illicit brews, Busa, Changa, and what have you, Muratina, name them. But if you are found loitering around, then the police catch up with you. They take you to court. What you pay before you are released is a fine. Another source is the state property. We know government departments that operate and charge for people, for the services and for the people who are visiting those properties. Look at things like forests, mines, national parks. You visit any national park, you pay. What are you paying for? You are paying for state property. Where does that money go to? It goes to the kitty because it forms the revenue for the government. If you visit a museum, you pay. Any archaeological site, you pay. Those of you from Mount Elgon, when you go to Mount Elgon Park, you pay. You visit Kakamega Forest, you want to enjoy yourself. Valentine was there yesterday. You want to take your lady there for natural environment, you pay. Such payments constitute income from state property. Above all, the government can also do internal borrowing. It can borrow from financial institutions or citizens within its country. So these are 7 sources of internal income, internal revenue for the government. We can use any of these so that we get income for the government. So once we have generated the income, this income is what is supposed now to be used to perform the functions. This income is what is applied to perform those functions, the 4 functions: administration, social, development, and protective. So the sources are from this internally. Externally, this is what is borrowed from external partners, external agencies like World Bank, IMF for that matter. What we get in terms of aid and grants in aid for, say, El Nino, for drought, name them. Those are sources of external. What we get in terms of loans, the current president is known for hovering around, is never in this country. Where is he? He says he's looking for money for the country. We are getting loans. America gave us last week some money. Those are external sources. So once we have generated the funds, we can now spend. So how do we spend the money that we have generated? We said public revenue deals with public finance deals with public revenue and public expenditures. So we have seen the revenues. How does the government spend? The government spends funds based on certain principles. They don't just wake up and spend. So the government must observe some guidelines in terms of its expenditure. One of the principles is the principle of economy. This principle states that resources are scarce and therefore no wastage should be permitted. Meaning that we can spend public funds to use those resources up to what is necessary. At any time, the funds need to be utilized prudently with minimum wastage. I don't know if this is the case in Kenya, but the policy, the principle is clear. We must minimize wastage. Why put funds in a project and the project is not completed? There is the principle of sanction. This principle suggests that all public funds should not be used without proper authorization. Sanction is authority. So who sanctions? In Kenya, all public funds are spent upon approval by the National Parliament, National Assembly. So it is the Parliament that approves public expenditures. No wonder the budget is read to the Parliament. No wonder all government expenses are and must be tabled. Parliament has to be done by a Parliament. So this principle suggests, therefore, that for public revenue, they must be used for purpose for which they were sanctioned. So if they sanctioned to build Hall 5 in Kibabi University and money is put there, that money should go to building that hostel. If they put money in a hospital, that money should go to a hospital. That is what that principle is all about. Then the principle of maximum social benefit. This principle of maximum social benefit postulates that expenditure should be incurred if and only if it is beneficial to the society. What does this mean? It means that authorities must therefore choose items, projects, or a combination of them to spend money on. They don't spend on every project. They have priorities. So if there are priorities, those priorities must be observed so that the projects they invest in, they give maximum social benefit. It must benefit many of the citizens. Then the principle of surplus, that always as we spend, let us ensure we spend less than what we have received. We spend less than what we have received. So if you spend less than what you have received, you will be left with a balance. That balance is what we are referring to as the surplus. That surplus is what can be used during unforeseeable circumstances and unprecedented expenditures. Like you have not budgeted for El Nino, and there comes El Nino. So you can use that. The same way we shall see under budgeting. You have not budgeted for photocopying. Then I give an assignment, or give a handout. You need to have that copy. That is what we may refer to as unforeseeable, unplanned. So we must always operate under surplus, spending less than what we have. Then finally is the principle of sound financial administration, which postulates that public funds and public accounts must be maintained accurately and systematically. That we must always have accurate financial accounts, systematic financial accounts, and all these public accounts must be audited so that we can investigate if there are any discrepancies. No wonder Kimilili constituency did not receive the CDF allocation that has been posted. Why? Because they are arguing that the projects that they worked on were shoddy, and therefore that is a discrepancy, an audit query that it should be answered. So this is what we are talking about. This is what we are saying, that we spend public funds on the basis of the 5 principles: the principle of economy, the principle of sanction, the principle of maximum social benefit, principle of supply, and the principle of sound financial administration. These are the guidelines, these are the guidance that are there for us to use as we expend public finance. So looking at this public revenue and public finance, we realize that public finance, therefore, is a wider concept, a concept that needs more. But allow me to look at briefly the international dealings. This can be seen in what we refer to as the balance of payments. A balance of payment is just a summary of a country's international transactions. How much do we receive from outside other countries, and how much do we pay to them? It therefore means that we are focusing on those international deals, the exports and the imports per country. That the balance of payment has 2 major sections: the current account, which shows the exports and imports of what is tangible, the goods and services. Goods can be felt, services cannot be felt. Goods are visible, services are invisible. So when we talk of visible and invisible items, we are only referring to as goods and services, because we are exporting even human resource, people going to work outside the country, then they bring in income for that matter. Then we have the capital account, which gives us the balance, what is given in terms of the foreign loans, the foreign aid, the grants, and what have you. So we receive by way of trading goods and services. And we also receive by way of loans and by way of help, grant payment. So all that which we receive and what we give, the difference is what is reflected in the balance of payment. How does this therefore work? That when the total receipts exceed the payment, then the balance of payment is said to be in surplus. That surplus is an income to the government. So it can also be added as an external source. The trading activities with the other international partners, the grants that we get, the foreign aid, the foreign loans that we get. So when the payments to other countries exceed the receipts, then the balance of payment is said to be in a deficit. Deficit means you are spending more than what you are receiving. So we are exporting less, but importing more.
When the payment to other countries.
But when the two are equal, then we talk of a balanced balance of payment. It is balanced or it is at equilibrium. So this is the 3 fashions that we can think of: either surplus, a deficit, or being at equilibrium. And a budget will also take the form of the 3 that we shall look at. So even at your own personal level, the essence of this course is to help you even at your own personal level. So when you are spending more than what you receive, you didn't budget for Valentine yesterday, but you took out the lady, you gave her chips kuku, soda, then she said, "Nahitaji nguo ya Valentine," and you go buying her the red one. When you did not budget, definitely something somewhere will suffer, and we shall see this when we are looking at the personal budget at that time. There is also what we talk of as a domestic market. And we want to look at internally. How do we look at these things? So we can talk of it in terms of the gross domestic product. This is the total market value of all the goods and services in our country. Market value of all finished goods and services. So if it's the market value, then we are monetizing, we are giving value in terms of money to all our goods and services. And meaning that GDP is therefore a monetary measure because it has to measure the market value of the annual output in the country. What are we paying in terms of the services we are rendering? What are we paying in terms of the goods we are producing? All this is what we are referring to. That only final goods, and when we talk of final goods, these are goods and services that are purchased for use and not for sale. You plant sukuma wiki, that sukuma wiki you sell to your neighbor goes to eat. The value that we are attaching is what is of importance to us. That value that we are attaching is what is of importance to us. What we have produced and consumed within the country. Unapanda mboga yako, unachuna, unakula. We value that one. So in this, then the goods and services that we produce and consume locally are the ones that constitute what we call the domestic product. Domestic means home, what we produce and use at home. So for the country, gross domestic product is what we produce and consume within the country. So what are some of the sectors that generate domestic product? Things to do with agricultural production, things to do with mineral production, things to do with agricultural production. So these are things that constitute the domestic market, and therefore they're the ones that are included in the gross domestic product of the country. Agricultural production, mineral production, and industrial production. That is what we... Then we have those that at the international. With GNP, this is the total market value of all goods and services that generate income to a country. What generates income to a country is what we are talking about. But if something does not generate income to a country, then that does not constitute the GNP. As we do this, ladies and gentlemen, our concern and focus is on the international market. We saw it earlier in terms of what is it that gives us the balance of payment. Now we want to look at it again in terms of what is it that gives us market, that gives us value for our money at that international market. Because we are focusing and we are concerned just a minute. I've seen power almost going off. Let me connect.
This is the total market value of all goods and services which generate income in the country. Nilikuwa nimeelewa the total
We nyamaza.
Wewe pia unyamaze ba.
Butoa ujinga kwa screen.
Anaosha masufuria.
Inatia kelele kwani mko mechi?
Wale watu wa mechi ndio wanapiga kelele hivyo. Kunyamaza, kunyamaza.
Tabia huko. Umeelewa? Katika maombi.
Kwani klasi imeisha?
Kwani lecture ameenda wapi? Wewe uliza.
Amekuja kwangu.
Anachaji simu anarudi.
Ameenda break.
Acha ujinga.
Alianda haja kubwa.
Anaweka laptop kwa charging.
Lecturer anasema mkunywe chai akirudi mpaka saa 8.
Saa 8 kwani ametubaya bundles?
Si anaamini mko wifi.
Nitagonga mtu hapa nyamaza.
Mtoke kwa mimi.
Nitagonga mtu hapa ile
habari zenu bwana.
The meeting.
Tapewa supu. Ngine anasema tunyamaze na walisema tu participate kwa study.
Sasa hiyo ndio kuparticipate gani?
Acha ufala.
Mtu akitolea
Ni mbaya.
Acheni ujinga, nyamazeni.
Simu yako mbaya. Anasema ufale kwa Kiingereza nini?
Wewe no tulia bwana. Wewe no tulia.
Leah's in the house.
Ama hata
Tapasua mtu
nifunze.
kichwa hapo.
Hata nifunze.
Ndiche na.
Bana tumechoka kungoja huyu jamaa.
We can now continue. Wewe.
Ametoa message bwana.
Nasema alienda kunywa chai.
Elijah.
Wewe unataka lale. Amsikii lecturer. Naenda nje kurudi.
Nyamaza kiasi. Lecturer ametuma message.
Wewe mnyamaze, mnamaliza bundles zangu nyinyi.
Anasema I have power in the lecture. Let's arrange for a makeup for today's lecture. Hivi ndio ametuma message.
Wewe hebu nyamazeni wazi.
Umesikia? Acha nirudie. Amesema I have power interaction. Let's arrange for a makeup for today's lecture later.
Kwani wewe peke yako ndio umeona hiyo message?
Wewe unajua hata class rep wako mwenye unasema wewe
Mbona si tuone hiyo message bro?
hiyo ni ujumbe kutoka kwa class rep. Wako na namba ya lecture.
Sasa class ya leo inaisha hivi. Sasa class iko ama haiko?
Iko ama haiko?
Baki ya
Jibu swali. Kiboi. Unatusumbua na tunatumia pesa zetu.
Hebu Kiboi type kwa chat. Watu hao nyamaza uongee.
Kiboi rudia tena.
Class imebounce.
Rudia ame.
Unajua sasa hapa
mnatupigia kelele bana.
Simnyamaza Kiboi aongee nini?
Msichana nyamaza.
Wewe ndo utafuta Kiboi huko.
You stop making noise.
Nasikia maumbwa.
Kwa nini mbaya na nyinyi wanaume na wanawake?
Kwani Kiboi ni boy wako?
Maungu hata ujinga.
Napaswa mtu hapa.
Watu wa criminal.
Nini nimeona hivi? Majizi mtakufa mbaya. nimefungua hapa. Popo. Ni vitu gani mmeweka hapa?
Klasi nimebana.
Hiyo redio yako itachomeka. Leo hii bila kuchomeka, leo inachomeka hiyo redio yako.
Niko na swali.
Kitu naona.
Au redio katachomeka leo.
Mwambie azime vitu za ajabu.
Hapo redio kwa leo katachomeka nimesema.
Ndio mazeni bwana.
Kwa vile mzee. Na wewe redio nimesema leo unaharibika, unachomeka. Ndedei wewe kama redio unachomeka, walipike. Kwani tunasoma redio hapa ama nini?
Radio ndo nini? Sema radio.
Classico.
Leo kwa redio kanachomeka.
Klasi nimebana.
Bado.
Bana hebu mbaya.
Nani ako wapi?
Klasi shaba.
Wewe acheni kupiga kelele bila nasikia ngoma.
Nani anafungulia
Wewe
redio?
ukipiga ngoma lakini itaharibika ichomeke. Sasa ndio class tunasoma ama ni ngoma unatuwekea hapo? Unafikia wewe ndio kuna redio pekee.
Nisikize ngoma.
Kama ni ngoma kutoka class ndio usikize pekee yako hapo. Sio kama mtu anapenda hizo ngoma zako. Sio tu kwa mbele unue ngoma.
Sasa tunababisha tuna maadai. Kama wewe ni nani unaongea?
Sio mkizia anasema wewe waje kusema mkizia. Mtu mwingine hatari kutoka huko. Wewe inachomeka.
Sasa kiasi.
Wewe mlio yatoka hapa.
Mukamba ni jigamba naye. Mukizi ni mukisikisi.
Mlio yatoka hapa bana.
Nimesema mukamba mukizikisi na nimesema hiyo redio leo inachomeka within the day. Na ujunge sana wewe mwenyewe usichomeke pia na redio. Wewe unue redio na pesa yako hapo kuja kutokea hapa kwa class. Kwa mimi unue redio.
Hello students, silent. We want to start our lesson. So the previous week, please, can you mute yourself? Or I will do it myself.
But you can mute us. I thought you can mute us. Why are you telling us to mute ourselves?
Okay, I'll do it right away. Okay, just give me a minute. But
We are undergoing mutations.
Let us now start.
Stop doing nonsense. Sawa? Endelea watu mchinga wewe. Stop doing nonsense. Sema tuendelee. Wenye wanasumbua. Na hii class imeisha. Talking. Mmesikia? I'm writing down your names.
Continue.
Okay.
Bwana, unajua tufuzi kwa group bwana, hadi kwa message.
Nani anasema Omboli nyamaza? Wewe Mkisi. Ndio anaandika Omboli.
Mwenye anaongea kama blood dry nani bwana?
Nani anaandika Omboli hapa? Wow.
I'm back. Nime connect chacha. No, we can continue.
Hapa ni mwanamke ameandika jina yangu hivi vizuri. Huyo hata sawa huyo.
Nani anaongea kama blood dry hapa?
Omboli. Mimi naitwa Omboli.
Hey, ongeni hizo mikebe zenyu.
Hii ni matusi walai.
Watu wa BSC
eti Omboli
gerere sana bwana.
Kwani mlikunywa pombe?
We can continue now.
Mambo ya kucheka hapa uacha. Ati niko simu nani
Wewe jamaa, hii si group ya WhatsApp bwana. Hii ni class. Mnaanza kutufiana hapa ndani.
Nasema ako single. Kwani yeye ni bikira? Wewe msingo, wewe ni bikira.
Pia mmeroga kutumia lecture.
Unajua ukianza kuchanganya watu hapa. Wewe ni bikira. Omboli kuna nani? Niandika Omboli. Sasa mimi naitwa Omboli. Mimi naitwa Omboli. Wewe kama hujui kuandika wewe vipi? I swear wewe kama ni mwanamke umeandika hivi, wewe hakuna kusawa.
Kwa unique lakini kwa ujinga.
Aja kuonea wakili.
Jamani wengi lakini tena ujinga ikakuwa
First announcement, you are going to have a cut next week. Second announcement, we are going to block enrollment next week. So for those who have not enrolled into this course and they are doing it, you have up to tomorrow enroll into the course on the e-learning in preparation for doing the card. Let me repeat again. Let me repeat again. Let me repeat again. Number one is that next week we are going to have a cut for KUC1250. You prepare for it. Also, for those who have not enrolled, those guys who usually wait for the last minute, those guys who usually wait for the last minute to enroll into a course, you have up tomorrow to do so. After that, we shall be able to lock enrollment, which means you are after tomorrow you will not be able to enroll if you haven't done that. In preparation for doing the card, we have realized that those who usually do last minute enrollment, they usually left behind. They don't know what to do. So the card will be online. The card will be online next week and you have up to tomorrow to enroll into the e-learning, into this course, because the card will be found on the e-learning portal. We have shared the enrollment key repeatedly. If you don't have, please ask your friend. So make sure by tomorrow you have enrolled into this course on the e-learning. If you haven't re-enrolled, means that not be able to enroll into this course again. So we have guys who are asking for enrollment key. Let me share the enrollment key. The enrollment key for KUC1250. Let me share it through the chat. Just check on the chat. Here it is. We have posted. I think it's capital letters, one word with no space. Okay, tomorrow we shall be available in the office. Today we are much engaged somewhere, so you will not be able to get assistance today. But tomorrow we shall be available. Also, the lecturer has requested for a makeup, preferably maybe tomorrow or over a weekend. He has experienced some network fluctuations. So he has requested for a makeup. We shall communicate. When is this makeup for today? We usually communicate through, we have a class, we have a WhatsApp group for class reps, and also we usually do communication via the Telegram channel. So if you go to the Telegram channel first years, you receive our mails. We usually make communication through that Telegram channel. So don't miss out. In case of anything, keep on checking on that Telegram channel. We shall communicate when the card will be available. And also what we expect you to do. So I think that's enough. So we can maybe leave. Can leave at your own. As we wait for our makeup. Now this as we wait for makeup class. So the card is for those courses that you are doing online. Like KUC 125, the card will be fully online. KUC 123, the card will be fully online, as we did the last time. So prepare well, go through the notes. The recordings for the previous lessons are found on the YouTube channel. The recordings for the previous lesson, things found on the YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel, let me just share the link for the YouTube channel so that you can get the previous recordings. Let me just try and check. Yeah, I got the link for the YouTube channel. Let me just share. You like and subscribe. So that you can watch the previous recording. For those who are were wondering what was happening. So that is the link for the YouTube. You can get all other recordings. You can like and subscribe so that you can receive updates. For those who are asking about the issues with the enrollment, we are talking about e-learning. And I would like you to know that there's no relationship between e-learning and student portal. Those restrictions, you get them on the student portal. But e-learning is so open. E-learning is so open. We have not restricted e-learning basing on your financial status. So for those who are worried about their financial status, I would like you to know that e-learning is just open for you to learn. Because if you have outstanding fee balance, you are not restricted to learn. You will be restricted for other activities, but you cannot be restricted to learn. So if you have fee balance, you can as well continue to learn as you sort your issues, as you sort your financial issues. So don't come up with lame excuses, or you cannot do this, you cannot do that. There's no relationship between e-learning and student portal. I think I have answered your question. Unless you have any other important question.